Welcome to the recorded training for therapists for the Behaviorsoft platform. So today we're going to see the therapist profile, all of its features, and let's begin. So this is where you will log in, app.behaviorsoft.com. You'll need your email and password. If you ever forget, you can use your forgot your password button or contact your administrator to ask for a password reset email. Once you log in, the first thing you'll see is your client's tab. Your client's tab will contain the case number, the full name of the client. Clicking on full name will go ahead and take you to the client's full profile. You can go ahead and see the service start date, the amount of time left on the authorizations. If there are any missing or due soon documents, we will see a section on the client's profile called the other document section, where administrators can set up a certain type of document, and then they can set up when the platform asks for that for the first time, and then how often. That is how the platform will track if they are missing or due soon. And finally, referral. When does that referral expire? Now, Behaviorsoft has two navigation menus. Top navigation menu, top right corner, left navigation menu, left-hand side in blue. So starting with the top right corner, support is the first button here. That first button has two options. First one, knowledge database. That will take you to this website, help.behaviorsoft.com. You'll find a lot of articles here on how to navigate the platform and how to do certain procedures. Second option under that same button is contact support. That will open whatever email client you've set up on your computer. For example, if I click on that, Outlook will open on mine for me to be able to send an email to support@behaviorsoft.com. You can also contact the support team clicking the contact support button on the lower left corner, where you can start an email or a chat directly from the platform. Second button on the top navigation menu, alerts. Clicking on alerts will actually take you to the same tab, your clients tab, and that is referring to your missing or due soon client documents. Profile. Again, two options. First option, my signature. This is where you can set up your electronic signature in the platform, and there's two ways to do that. You can use your draw pad here to the left to go ahead and draw your signature, or you can go ahead and upload a custom image using the select custom signature file button. Here, you can go ahead and check the informed consent to use electronic signatures in the platform. You actually give your consent by clicking this checkbox over here, and once you click save, that is it. Your signature will be saved. You are able to update this signature whenever you want. So clicking save will replace whatever you have current with whatever you have entered as new, either in the draw pad or the custom image file. Next button or option under that profile button, user profile. This is very basic information about your account. So your email, your name, your phone number. If you want to receive text notifications, and if you want to update your password as well, you can update any of your details here or that password. Any change you do make, you confirm with your current password before clicking update. Once you click update, those changes take place. Finally, on the top navigation menu, sign out button takes you out of the account back into the sign in screen where we began. Now let's move on to the left navigation menu. From top to bottom, first tab here is the file cabinet. File cabinet is a folder where administrators and office staff members can upload and delete files. As a therapist, you're able to see the name of that file, a description if they have entered any. You can click on this icons over here to download, see who uploaded that file, when, and what's the file size. Next, you would find my profile. Here, you'll see your full profile as a therapist. You can see your name above, what type of therapist you're entered as in the system, your contact information, and then you have several tabs here. These tabs can be changed or set up by your administrator. So if you have to change your address, for example, or something here, please go ahead and ask your administrator. General information on the first tab. Second tab will contain the list of requirements my administrators or my company needs from me as a therapist to be able to provide services. So when a requirement is met, you will see it is met. When it is not expiring soon, it will show in green. When it is met but expiring soon, it will show in yellow. And by the way, expiring soon is something your administrators can customize. So that can be 3 months or less, 2 months or less, 1 month or less, can be any amount of months or less depending on what your administrators have set up. You're not able to upload your own files here. So if you see something that is expiring soon or is already expired, please go ahead and contact your administrators with the required documents. Third tab here, pay history. On this tab, you will see all the visits that have been scheduled on your calendar for the current month. So you have certain columns here where you can see date, client, hours worked, billable hours, billable units, if that visit was marked as a training or not. And we'll see that later, how to mark them as training. And also we'll review the training supervision report. What your hourly rate is, what your total is for that visit, the billing code. If you ever see automatically created here, contact your administrators. They will have to set up the correct billing code and billing rate for that visit. Visit status and payroll status. Visit status can be scheduled when it has just been entered into your calendar. If your practice or company is using the mobile app, it will automatically change to completed once you clock in and clock out. If not, then administrators do have to change that manually from scheduled to completed. Completed with errors is very specific for some TELUS regions and or some regions in Florida that need to do billing through TELUS, which is something a different platform. And here, payroll status is to mark things as paid or not paid to you as a therapist. Time entry will take you to this screen. That is the same thing as clicking forms, data, and time. On this screen is where you will schedule and create your notes. So right here, you would see your name. And right here, you would see the client that you are scheduling for or will create a note for. Right now, I have not selected any, so I can't see any. You select the client right here on this drop-down menu. This will show you all the clients that you're assigned to. Once you do click on someone, you will see your calendar. This calendar is seen by month. You can see previous months using the arrow to the left, future months using the arrow to the right. How do you schedule? So say I wanted to schedule something for September 3, this Friday. I look for that date, and there is 2 little text boxes for me to enter starting and ending time. You can use the drop-down menus, so those have 15-minute intervals, or you can just type in whatever you want. That is how you schedule. Now, what if I want to schedule recurrent visits? Instead of clicking on the little text boxes where you can enter starting and ending time, you will click outside. Clicking outside will display this pop-up window where you can see the date, the client. You can enter here the starting and ending time. This actually is a drop-down menu, so you can go ahead and change the client if you want to, and then you can enter time. And then you can select what days does this recurrent visit repeat on. So for example, on this, I just clicked on a Saturday. Let's say I just want all Saturdays. So only Saturdays I would. And then until when do you want that to repeat? Until the end of the month? Until the end of the authorization? The authorization is set up on the client's profile by administrators. So that needs to be set up in advance if you want to use that option. A certain date. So every Saturday until, maybe October, or a certain number of events. So every, how many Saturdays? Next 5, next 10 visits, I want those to. So whatever you select, once I'll put the next 5 Saturdays. So I'm going to go ahead here and click save. You will see all of those are created for you. If you want to delete a visit that is not part of the series, you'll have this icon here, a red trash bin icon, where you can go ahead and delete it. If it's part of a series, when you click, that is not a red trash bin icon, it's a red folder icon, where you can click on that and you'll be asked, do you want to delete only this visit or this and all future events that were created on the same series? That is how you schedule. And now for RBTs and BC ABAs that will be supervised, how do you track that on your system? Say that this Friday that we were playing with, we're going to go ahead and schedule some time here with the client mark. So whoever you select here is for who you're scheduling with. And that date, I'm going to be there from 8 a.m. to noon. And then maybe from noon to 2 p.m., I am going to be supervised. So I have to create separate visits. And then I will go ahead, click on edit, and select right here that I was supervised, or that is a training / supervision. That will allow my BCBA to be scheduled at that same time, 12 to 2 p.m., and that will auto-calculate the time I've been supervised out of my total, and will give me the percentage that shows up on the training and supervision, which is actually the next tab we're going to see. Right now, we clicked on time entry, and that's why we are on the calendar. That is also the same thing as clicking forms, data, and time. So if I marked a visit as a supervision on this training and supervision, obviously you can't create one for your own. You are able to create for people that you're supervising. So in this case, since we are on a BCABA's, no, we're on a BCBA's account, we can see the person or the therapist that have been assigned to her. We are on Natasha's profile as supervisees. So Natasha is providing supervision to Walter, to Scott here, and okay, so those two only. So you can see she has a create button here. Clicking create will open that file. I'm going to delete it. They can add, create, edit, or delete. So for this person, you can see I can create the one for August, and this is a monthly report. I can create it at the beginning, and it will automatically update. I will just have to come in here and select the adequate options for every visit. So this is what a supervisor would see here. If the date of that visit that was marked as training, the name of the client, time in, time out, duration, and then they can mark if that was individual, group, face-to-face, direct observation, and how was the performance. Satisfactory, needs improvement, unsatisfactory. And then you have these two little sections here, training and supervision, documents review checklist, with which your administrators actually can go ahead and customize. There are three types of fields your administrators can add here: check boxes, small text boxes, and large text boxes. The moment you go ahead and fill it out, and I will go ahead and just fill it out with a little bit nonsense here without reviewing too much, you are able to submit. Once you submit, that is created as a PDF file that you can sign as a supervisor. You will, every time you see that sign button, you're able to check what you're signing here below. Clicking click to sign will go ahead and input the signature you've set up in the system. So now you see this has been signed by the supervisor, which is in this case Natasha, and is missing the supervisee's, meaning Scott's, signature. So that is it for the scheduling part. On this calendar view, you will also go ahead and create your notes. Notes are to be created clicking this green button with a plus sign. So if you are an RVT, you will only see this section. If you are an analyst, you will see both RVT and analyst section. If you're a BCBA, a BCABA, it depends on how your platform or your admin has set up your account. And in that case, please do ask your administrators which of these notes are you supposed to fill out. Now, RBT note, date, client, the times will be taken directly from calendar, diagnosis of that client, places of service. This list your administrators can customize if the analyst was present or not, participation of client, risk behavior, what was done with that risk behavior, life events. We have hospitalization here, doctor visit, medication change. You can add name of the medication, and optionally, you can also note the dosage, schedule, side effects, and prescribing physician for that medication. You can also select if you want to show that on graph. Behaviorsoft will track everything you input on this note automatically, and all behaviors will have their own graph. So if there is a medication that you think might have some consequence on behavior and you want that to be shown on the graph, then please click here. Same thing with other environmental changes. Other environmental changes is also customizable. Your administrators can go ahead and customize what appears here. Any options you have, you are able to select, explain or describe them, and have them shown on the graph. And we'll see a graph soon enough so you know how that looks. If there's an incident to report, you are able to describe it right there. Caregiver feedback is also a customizable part of the note, so it depends on your administrators. Here you will go ahead and be able to select options, and you would see first maladaptive behaviors with their name, the current short-term objective that's being worked on. Here's where you would enter the data depending on how that behavior is being tracked. You can enter frequency, you can enter rate, duration, intensity, intervals, missed opportunities. It all depends on how that behavior was set up. Interventions used is also customizable by administrators, and each behavior has its own comment box. If there's anything you want to comment, that's a place to do so. After all maladaptive behaviors, you will find replacement behaviors. Again, with their name, the current short-term objective that is being worked on, depending on how the admin has set up the account. You can also, well, you are also able to see the description of that. And then you would enter data. Currently, the platform is tracking successful trials out of total trials. That becomes a percentage that's tracked for replacements. And you can also input comments. After all replacements, you have reinforcers where you can select if you used edibles, tangible socials, go ahead and describe. Client preferences, you would see a list of previous preferences here. You can archive previous preferences, or you can add new ones just writing on these text boxes here. Finally, additional comments. Anything that you have not noted before, didn't have the right place to do so, you can go ahead and write it here. Once you click save, that is it. That changes the icon on that date. So I know I have created a note for Mary for the 7th, for Mark, actually. I am actually here, have Mark selected. If I go ahead and click on Mary, I see I haven't created a note for her. So if I click on that one, I will see that this is now for Mary. That is how you go ahead and schedule, create your note, and also keep track of your supervision. For supervisors, you don't actually have to mark your visit as training. Your visit is billed exactly as regular services. So you just have to go ahead and schedule over that same time frame. So in this case, this one was marked as training, and this billing code wasn't set up, so you can see it's auto-generated. But because this specific account we're using is for an analyst, and analysts are never supervised, so this option just doesn't exist in the real world. We don't have an analyst marking their own visits as supervision. That is for RBTs and assistants. Going back to that profile, that is how what a time entry and the training and supervision tab do. Log time is for you and administrators to be able to download an Excel file with the visit history. You can go ahead and enter starting date, ending date, and download that as an Excel file. Miscellaneous is record keeping purposes. Record keeping purposes for email notifications that you can receive from the platform. You receive notifications whenever you have expired or expiring requirements, whenever a note that you have authored has been rejected by your approver. And that is it for your profile. A very important thing to note on the training and supervision is also if you ever have the occasion where on your calendar you cannot enter time for a training because whatever limit, either the limit on the client has been reached, the limit on the authorization, the limit on your own time as therapist, you are able to just enter at a random time. So say 11 p.m. to 11 p.m. So the system lets you create that visit. And after it is created, you're able to edit, mark that as a training supervision, and edit the times. That is what we call the workaround for when you are wanting to input supervision time on this calendar from previous dates. So you're always able to do that if you need to. Supervision, we saw it. It is for analysts or people that are assigned as a supervisor of someone else. Clients. Clients is where we began, but we are now going to see a client's full profile. So I'm going to go ahead here and click on a client's name. Clicking on a client's name will open the client's full profile, and it has several sections. Those sections appear on this little menu that appears now on the left hand side. You can see the name as one, service interruption, below ABA document section, a CMH document section that is a community mental health that will only appear for practices using the community mental health module have been approved by our company to begin using it, and then other documents. This CMH is currently being developed, so it's kind of like on a beta test phase. On the first section, the one you go in by clicking the client's name, you have the main tab. That main tab will contain just main information. This can be changed by administrators. Addresses tab. Here, anyone, including RBTs, are able to add addresses. You can add, edit, or delete. Adding an address will show you this form where you can go ahead here, select a type of address, that is the label for that address, then enter that address and click create client address. That will add it to the list. You can also input an optional title. If you don't, on the calendar view, let me take you back to that calendar view so you know what I'm talking about. Clicking the forms data and time. We're going to go to a calendar view here for Barbara, for example. And let's see, let's just schedule something for this Saturday here. You see how the starting and ending location of those visits, of that visit actually is home and home. That is because on her profile, the default address is home. But you can see home, school facility, on-site, park, community, daycare, kindergarten. And this park has an optional title to it. So let's see how that looks if I want to edit a visit and also edit my starting and ending locations. I can go ahead and see that list. And you can see that instead of just reading park, I see the optional title. So if there's an optional title entered, that's the one you're going to see here. Next tab, authorizations. As therapists, you're not able to enter or set up authorizations on the system, but you are able to see what the status is. You can see the authorization number, the PA number, the amount of used units out of the total. So in this case, for billing code, fictitious billing code X455, there have been 372 units used from 1,000 allowed for this time frame. The calendar will not let you schedule past the amount of authorized units as well. But it is always good to check on this tab to keep track how many you've used, and obviously the difference is how many are still available. Medications would come directly from the medication sections we saw on the progress note. Diagnoses are entered by administrators. Caregivers can be entered by administrators and analysts, people that have an analyst role in the system. You can add, edit, or remove caregivers. When you add a caregiver, you can enter their name, relationship to client, contact information optionally, including the email there. Email is necessary if you want this caregiver to have access to a caregiver portal, which is something very new on our platform and doesn't have a lot of features as of yet. It is currently just to do two things. One is joining a telehealth visit, and two, taking care of the pending balance of whatever is the client's responsibility when you are using our integration with Change Healthcare. So going back to this, you enter their full name, relations to the client, contact info optional, and then you would see the caregiver competency check. Here you would enter a baseline, a date for that baseline, and the baseline for the criterias. This criterias can be customized by your administrators as well. The format that your administrators create will be the same format for all caregiver competency checks you do on the company. So once you click create client caregiver, active caregivers would show on this list. To add new competency checks after the baseline has been created, you just click this button here, add competency check. Clicking this green button will show you this form where you can see the date, the client, primary and secondary diagnosis. They can have as many secondary diagnoses as your administrators enter in the system, the caregiver, places of service, and you can use the bar here, or you can use your keyboard to enter whatever percentage is needed. Once you click saved, that is automatically graphed, and you can see those graphs here clicking on charts. So you would see everything tracked from baseline going forward. RBT competency checks work very similarly. When you add RBT, you would see the active and archived RBTs for this person. If you have already done so for an RBT, it will already be on the list, but let's pretend they're not. Say you're doing this as an analyst for the first time, you would go ahead and select your RBT here, enter the baseline, the date for that baseline, and then whatever criteria you see here are as well customizable by your administrators, but you get to decide which criteria are you interested in tracking for this specific RBT. So for example, say I was going to track something for RBT Danny, and these are the criteria set up by my admin. I'm interested in tracking this, this, and this for him. So when I click save, now Danny has been added to this active RBT list. Next time I want to create a competency check for Danny, I just click add competency check here. I will see the date, client, diagnosis, the list of RBTs is already would be selected. You can change that from others. Places of service, and again, use the bar or use the keyboard to enter some data. Once you click save, that is it. Say in the future, you want to edit the criteria you're tracking for this RBT. In that case, you will click edit, select different criteria. So I have those three. I'm going to go ahead and select this two now. Or maybe I'm going to keep that one and select this two. When you add the competency check, you'll have the ones you left selected. So this is a little bit more dynamic than the caregiver competency check. That is it for this tab. They are also graphed automatically. You can see those on the charts there. Next tab is preferences. Preferences are also taken from the preference section on the progress note. Maladaptives and replacements tab. So here, depending on your axis is what you will be able to do. The type of therapist you're in the system. Analyst, you're able to add, edit, delete, edit STOs and everything. You're able to also import and export data. RBTs, you're able to just see the graph and see what your analyst has set up. So how do you add a behavior into the system? Either you use the maladaptive or the replacement skills, depending on the behavior. You can click that green button and you will see a list pop up. This list is customizable by your administrators as well. I'm just going to click on anything because at the end of the day, that list is not super important because if there is something you did not find on that list, you can also just enter it here on the custom name field. So I selected disturbing interpersonal behavior. I'll just go ahead and select, actually, let's just put SIB, for example. You would enter a topography. In this case, I will just copy the topography here. You can go ahead and select the functions. So it can be one, it can be more. How you're going to collect it or how RBTs are going to collect that data. So by frequency, rate, intensity, missed opportunities, intervals, duration. If duration, you have average and total. Usually, most common one is frequency, so I'm going to go with a common one. If you ever need help on how to set up something different, please remember you have your contact support button, and you can open a chat or send us an email whenever you want. Closing date, this is the day where the graph will display weekly data by default. So what day should that data be displayed? A data point. So in this case, I'm closing Fridays. That means that my platform will track this behavior from Saturday to Friday, and that is what will be considered a week. Now, I'll make up a baseline. This would obviously come from an assessment or reassessment, but I'm going to say we are having, I don't know, just to give you an example, 30 incidents a week. And you do need to enter a date here for your baseline. I'm going to enter just August 20th here, and then I'm going to go back to this section. I have a baseline now. I'm now ready to go ahead and set up how I want this behavior to reduce. So first, the duration of my SDOs. The duration can be in a certain amount of weeks or a certain amount of months. And that is the amount of consecutive time an SDO should have to be under a certain line to be considered as met. So in this case, I'll go with 4 weeks. Say with 4 weeks, and then how am I going to reduce it? I have two options. Either I go by percentage or a specific unit. My baseline in this case is 30. If I leave, say my percentage is 50, I will create basically two short-term objectives. One that goes from 30 to 15, because that is 50%, and then from 15 to 0. Same thing if I go with every other percentage. It will depend on the baseline and the percentage itself. What if you go with a specific number? A specific number is for me to be able to input, say I wanted to go from 30 to 25, 25 to 20, 20 to 15. I don't want to calculate what that percentage is. So I know I want reductions of 5. You can go by either one and not both. So either you reduce it by a certain percentage or a specific number. Now, for this case, I'll just leave at 5. So we have several STOs, 30 to 25, 25 to 20, 21, 20 to 15, and so on. Now, when am I going to start working with this behavior? This is my first short-term objective start date. So say I'm going to start this date, August 30th, for example. Start a graph. I can go ahead and override the date that the graph starts. If I leave it blank, my graph will start at the exact same starting date. I can start it earlier or later if I want to. Then my long-term objective, what's my goal there for long-term? I will go ahead and leave this as 0. I can also enter a long-term objective length. The length is the duration of that long-term objective. So in this case, if you leave it blank, it will just be twice whatever duration you set up for the STOs. In this case, my STOs are 4 weeks. So if I leave this blank, my long-term objective will be 8 weeks, the duration. If I go ahead and enter time here or enter a number, then I'll be changing the amount of weeks. So if I enter 6 weeks, then my long-term objective will be 6 weeks. Like I said, leaving it in blank, it will default to twice the length of the STO. And very important, the platform will only track RBT data. RBT data is tracked by default, but if you also want the platform to track analyst data, the data that they enter on the analyst note, you would select this here. So now we are going to save this behavior and you're going to see how the automatic STOs are created. So clicking Save and Update STOs will make that behavior appear on this tab. They do appear in alphabetical order. So I have gone ahead and added SIB. It will be here. Now, I apparently had one already. So I am just going to delete the previous one and show you the one we created. I know this is the one we created just because of the date. So I have the name, the topography, how's that being collected, the closing date, my baseline is 30 incidents a week. STO durations 4 weeks. I am using analyst data, and I did not override the date of the start of the graph. Here it reads, client will reduce SIB from 30 incidents to 25. That's a reduction of 5 per week for 4 consecutive weeks. That is the duration I selected for those STOs, 4 weeks. To be initiated, this is my starting date to this date. This date here is if the world was perfect and I actually start my STO here, exactly 4 weeks later, by this date, my STO should be mastered. Probably that will not happen. So what the platform will do is, like I said, automatically track whatever you input on the note. So if we don't have 25 incidents or less for 4 consecutive weeks, the platform will just go ahead and increase the duration of STO1 until that is met. Once you have 25 incidents or less per week for 4 consecutive weeks, this will go from in progress to met. Right now it's not started because we just don't have any data. Replacements work very similarly. So you can add, edit, or archive. You can see this list. This list is customizable. You can select any. You can override that name, enter the description, still enter the baseline here. For a duration on your STOs, same thing, and any amount of weeks or months. How do you want to increase it in this case? Because it is a replacement or a scale. So either by percentage or number, same choices, and a little bit different from adaptive here. You can also track duration. So you can input baseline, starting time, increment, LTO. You can also indicate the type of assistance you'll be giving to this behavior, to teach this behavior. And again, same options, right? You can go ahead and enter your starting date, your date of start of graph, your long-term goal, your long-term objective, the length. If you leave it in blank, it will just be double the what you selected here. So in this case, it's 3 months. My long-term one would be 6 months if I don't enter anything. If I enter a number, then it will be whatever that amount of months, because I'm saying I'm using months. And again, if you want to track analyst data or not. In this case, you can track, like I said, baseline or duration. So you can track both, just one of those two. How does a graph look like? So the automated STOs would be the gray dotted line. Baseline, which you can have up to 3, would be here. You have a black solid line there. Whenever an STO is met, you'll have this vertical dotted line with a label. And whenever you select that you want an event, whenever you select an event like a medication or any of the environmental changes and you select show on graph, that becomes one of these red dotted lines with a number. So in this case, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You will always have the key for those events here. That's how graphs look like. CMH, this tab, like I said, will just appear if your company is using CMH module. You will see the problems of that behavior, of that client, and the descriptions of those. Ledger has to do with billing, so you won't see that there. And miscellaneous is again record keeping purposes. Service interruptions, part 2 of the client's profile. That part 2, really easy. You can just add or delete service interruptions. The point of service interruption is to note whenever there isn't a prolonged interruption on a client's services, like family going on vacation, for example, or in this case, COVID. There was a long time frame there where the client did not receive services. So when you add a service interruption, you are able to enter the reason for that service interruption, a starting date, and an ending date. What that will do is that on your graphs, no data will be displayed between starting and ending date. Third section, ABA documents. Here you'll just find all the notes you've created. So RBT notes on this first tab, analyst notes on this other tab. Monthly reports, you are able to create with one single click, and this is again mostly for analysts. When a month is over, you're able to click this start button. You can see I can't create one for August yet because this is being filmed in August or recorded in August, so I can't create that yet until August is over. So for now, I'll create this one. You can click on start and the platform will automatically create this for you. Basic information about the client, a summary of progress. You can freely type in here. Diagnosis, environmental changes noted during that month, and all behaviors with their topography, STOs, LTOs, comments, or anything, and their graph. Now, all of these graphs do seem a little bit empty because I tend to create a lot of behaviors to show you how it's done and then never follow up, but yours will be very different. So first you would have maladaptives, then you would have replacements as well. After replacements, you also have caregiver competencies. The caregiver competency checks you've done previously will also show up here in two forms. You have tables above and also graphs below. On the bottom right corner, you have the button to create monthly. So you click on that, and that is created as a Word file that you're able to, as in this sections, approve, reject, sign, view, download in PDF, edit, and delete. RBTs, this is also where you will sign your notes. So if you can see you authored a note here and you click to sign, that's how you sign them. Same thing for analysts. So analysts, you will sign your notes and RBT notes. Monthlies, those are signed by RBTs usually. This is where you'd find the caregiver competency checks, RBT competency checks, which you can also sign. RBTs can also sign these as the evaluated RBT. And then assessments, there's two ways of going or handling assessments in the platform. You can use this section over here. We can just click create client assessment. You can go ahead and add, edit, or delete sections to the right. Really easy. Adding is just clicking the plus button that shows up there. Editing is just clicking on the actual word and typing in something differently. Deleting is clicking on the red trash bin icon. Those will go ahead and affect what sections you have here on the right. And on the right, you can enter text, images, graphs, anything you want. If you save this on the client's profile, it does become only a PDF. It is not tracked by the platform. Nothing is pulled out from there. You can just print it, download that as in PDF, edit or delete it. We are going to skip the mental health section on this video because we're mostly doing ABA for now. And this section, client documents, is where you would have a place where you can upload or download files from the client's profile. By default, this is empty. So it depends on whatever administrator set up. If by any chance you see, for example, this client has 0 due soon documents and one that is missing, so one document is missing here and you can't see it, that means that specific document was created for only administrators and office staff members. So that is why you can't see it. Forms, data, and time, we saw calendar view where you can schedule, input if a visit is a training or not, and you create your notes. View team calendars is where you can see calendars for your team members. So you would see your clients. Clicking view team calendar here will let you see the full team. Clicking on them will let you see their calendar. My hours and earnings will show you a summary of your visits per month with the date, client, visit times, duration, billable units, your rate per hour, your total on the last year, and the status of that visit and payroll status, if it has been marked as paid or not paid to you. Analysts will also have this extra tab here where you can approve notes of RVTs directly from here. You can only approve and reject. You can select several to approve the selected ones. If you reject, this is also where you will enter your comments. Why are you rejecting a certain note? That RBT will get an email notification. And that is basically it. You are welcome to see the Refer and Earn program we have as well, if you work with different agencies. And finally, if you have any question, doubt, comment, always know you have your contact support button there and will be available to answer any question you may have. Thank you and have an excellent day.